Hey, what's up guys, it's Bakes and thanks for joining me for this St. Patrick's Day edition of my random horror reviews. First of all, if you celebrate this holiday, happy St. Patrick's Day. Here in Australia, it is not a big holiday at all. I don't think anyone really celebrates it truly. It's just more so one of those things where you see it on the calendar and go, huh, today's St. Patrick's Day, and that's pretty much the extent of it here. However, on my channel, I've been trying to keep up holiday-themed content for you guys. Last month, I did Valentine's Day. In the past, I've done Halloween and Christmas, so I didn't want to miss out on doing St. Patrick's Day. However, there aren't a lot of horror movies that relate directly to St. Patrick's Day, so you have to more so pick something that is Irish related, and immediately something stood out to me. It's not a film from Ireland, actually. It's an American movie, but I'm sure it's a film and a franchise that stand out to a lot of people if you were to think of St. Patrick's Day. So here we have Leprechaun from 1993. I actually really enjoy these Leprechaun movies. They've started to become more well-known in the horror community. It's a pretty loved franchise. They're cheesy, they're goofy, but they're a lot of fun. I actually haven't seen this first Leprechaun movie in a long time. I used to watch it a lot when I was younger. I've actually seen a fair few of the sequels as of recent. However, as I said, hadn't really checked this one out in a while, but it was fun to go back and rewatch it for this review. So before we get into my thoughts of Leprechaun, let's quickly go into the plot. So we have our lead played by Jennifer Aniston, and her dad move into this new house off in the country, and the previous owner trapped a leprechaun in the basement. He was after his pot of gold, trapped him so he could keep the gold for himself. However, some time has passed now, the owner's not there anymore, and Jennifer Aniston and her dad move into this house. There's painters and people coming by that, eventually become part of this group, and they accidentally release the leprechaun who is now looking for his missing gold after all this time, and he will not let anyone get in his way until he has all of his gold back. I'm going to keep it sort of brief like that. It's a fun movie, let's get into it now. Leprechaun from 1993. Now, for those people who haven't actually seen this movie before and just looking at it at face value, you'd probably presume that this movie is not very good and it's overly goofy and cheesy. And don't get me wrong, it is goofy and cheesy, and this movie isn't spectacular, but it is a lot of fun, and it is also genuinely probably not as bad as what you would first guess. As I said, this movie is really likable, it's a lot of fun, and I can see a lot of people finding enjoyment from this movie like myself. And as I said, it's not like the movie is spectacular. I remember watching this for the first time when I was young, and just by looking at the cover, I presumed that the movie wasn't going to be that amazing. But as I said, I had fun with it when I was younger, and I still have fun with it now. So, don't let this movie fool you just by looking at the cover or hearing the concept of it, because you can have a lot of fun with this movie. The first thing that I want to highlight with this one is our cast and our characters. They're really great. We get 5 leads in this movie, and they're all good performances and all extremely likable characters. I guess the 2 notable ones that I want to bring up first of all is one, Jennifer Aniston. A lot of people are mistaken and think that this was her debut film. Not really. I guess you could argue, first time starring. But she does really well in this movie, for such a ridiculous concept. That could scare a lot of people trying to make a big name in Hollywood away. But she, goes fully into it, gets into her performance, and she's really likable in this movie as well. And also, she's definitely a very, standout actress, as in, you can see early on why she was so successful in her career. She's done so many movies to date now, and you can see the blueprints for it here because she does a very good performance. But the second notable performance in this movie is Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun. He's completely made this role his own. You could probably put down the success of the Leprechaun franchise, because if you don't know, I think there was another... I think there's another 7 movies after this one. You could put this success of this franchise all on his shoulders, because he makes this character his own. He is genuinely creepy at times, but, he also adds a lot of fun and humor and, maybe a bit cheesy and hammy at times, but he just completely takes this role under his arm and, fucking fully goes at it. So, 2 notable performances there, but as I mentioned, the whole cast do a great job. The love interest, I used to be annoyed at him when I was younger, I don't know why, but he's really likable in this movie. The kid Alex, our comic relief in this movie, Ozzy, who's like basically a adult who has the mind of a kid, really. As I said, he's our comic relief, and he is very funny. But another thing that caught me off guard is how funny all of our characters are in this movie. One that caught me off guard in particular, again, was Jennifer Aniston. She had so many good one-liners in this movie that, maybe didn't make me roll on the floor laughing, but made me chuckle. But as I said, I really enjoyed all of our cast and characters in this movie. Another thing I want to quickly highlight for this movie is the effects and the makeup and the gore in this one, because it's all really well done. I guess first of all starting with the makeup, because that's a big centerpiece of this movie, turning Warwick Davis into this leprechaun. As I said, he does a great performance, really does make it his own, but the makeup for him to be this leprechaun is really well done also. He looks really creepy and also like really gross, his skin and his fingers and his teeth, it's all really nasty. Like, I wouldn't want him fucking touching me. Like, it's so gross. But again, really great makeup. The effects also really well done. For a movie that I can imagine didn't have a huge budget, I really feel like they made the most of, their practical effects. The gore also, for a concept like this, a killer leprechaun, you might think it could be a little bit, tame in some way, I don't know, but when they want it to be gory, they really go for it. There's a few parts where I feel like they could have taken it a step up, but as I said, when they go for it, they really do. They're not afraid to show eyeballs coming out and blood splattering everywhere and, organs and all that coming out. The gore, makeup effects, everything in this movie along those lines is really well done also. So moving on to a few of the negatives that I have with this movie now, and the first place that I want to start with the negatives is unfortunately the story, because I feel like this movie is almost too simple, and I've said so many times in the past before reviewing other movies, sometimes the most simple of movies and plots and ideas are the ones that work so well. However, as I said, I almost feel like this movie is too simple. It just feels like a bunch of things happening, something that gets them from point A to B, B to C, and then the movie's over. And I feel like this movie could have a bit more substance to it. And don't get me wrong, I know it's a fucking killer leprechaun movie. It's goofy, it's cheesy, I'm aware. But as I said, it could have a bit more substance, a bit more padding, to, build up the story a little bit more. As I said, it's an entertaining ride, it's fun. But as I said, I feel like there's nothing wrong with asking for a little bit more substance. But with it being, the case of it going from A to B, B to C, C to D, and then the movie's over, it's just a bunch of things happening. It also makes the movie feel a little bit too long in the tooth. I feel like this movie could have 10-15 minutes cut off it. But yeah, that was just something with this movie. I feel like it could have a bit more with its story added to it. Another negative that I have for this movie is the use of shadows and the dark, especially in the first half of this movie. And I get it to some extent because a lot of the shadowing that they use in this movie is to hide Warwick Davis as the leprechaun, especially in the first half, as I said. And I get it's to, keep his look a mystery, and then, as the movie goes, we're going to see more of him and it becomes a reveal. But the effects look so fucking good on Warwick Davis, hopefully there's no gore on the back that gets flagged, but it looks really good. And it's a shame that he's hidden for so long because you want to see more of him. And, a lot of the times he's sort of pushed off into the shadows. And, I like the end of the movie more where we get to see more of him and everything. But also with the shadows and the dark, a lot of the gore is hidden as well. And as I said when I highlighted the effects and the gore earlier, it's all really good. So again, it feels like it's a little bit too much shadows and dark being used. Don't get me wrong, there's still highlights where we get to see his face very clearly and we get to see some gore very clearly, but I just feel like, they could have cut back on the darkness and the shadows used in this movie a little bit. So wrapping up my thoughts for this movie now and moving on to my ratings and such, as I said, at the end of the day, I do have a few negatives with this one. The lighting is a bit weird, as I said, the overuse of the dark and the shadows. My negatives with the story, as I said, I feel like it could be just a little bit too simple. I want a bit more substance there. It just feels like events happening to get from A to B, B to C, and then the movie's over. To the point where, as I said, it's almost too simple and arguably a little bit bland. But at the end of the day, I don't want to take too many points away because it's about the ride getting there to the end. It's a lot of fun, you know, a lot of enjoyment with these characters. As I said, all the characters are great. There's lots of fun moments, funny dialogue. The gore and the kills are great. You know, as I said, when they don't want to hold back, they really go for it. It might surprise you if you haven't seen this movie. As I said, you know, don't judge a book by its cover or the concept by what you hear, you know, because I'm sure you're going to get more fun out of this than what you would probably expect. I have a lot of enjoyment from this movie and a lot of the other Leprechaun films in the franchise. But for a rating, I'm going to give Leprechaun from 1993. I'm thinking a 6 or a 6.5. I'm just going to give it a 6, you know. I feel like it's reasonable enough. 6 is definitely not a bad score, guys. But as I said, a fun movie. I keep saying it, but don't judge a movie by its cover or just from what you hear about the plot. This movie's fun, it's cheesy, it's goofy, but if you know what you're getting yourself in for, you could have a lot of fun with this one. So thank you again, guys, for joining me for this St. Patrick's Day edition of my random horror reviews. As I said, this was a weird one to prep for because there aren't many horror movies just off the top of my head that relate directly to St. Patrick's Day. Not any at all, actually, if I'm being honest. But, you know, as I said, something that was Irish related. My mind went straight to Leprechaun, and I think this is a fine movie to do for St. Patrick's Day. But thank you again for joining me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the Leprechaun movie or any of the movies in the franchise in the comments below. All of the support really helps, guys. Liking my videos, commenting, subscribing. If you're not already subscribed, I would really appreciate that, guys. If you love horror content, lots of it is coming your way. If you are subscribed, remember the bell icon. I think a lot of people are unaware of what the bell icon does. If you are subscribed and you do not have the bell icon turned on, sometimes you miss notifications of when videos come up. So I just want to make you guys aware of that as well. But all of the support helps, guys. But I just really, at the end of the day, I appreciate you guys coming along and watching my videos talking about horror movies, because that's what I love, guys. So thank you for joining me again, guys, and I'll see you for another video soon. Peace.